Our next guest, he's going to teach you how to get around that CFO veto. He is the Leonardo DiCaprio of ledgers, the Beyonce of budgets, and the Picasso of profit. Our very own Q-PAC CFO, Kevin VanDyke.
Thanks, Kurt. Hey, everyone. How's everyone doing? Great? Before I get started, I'd just like to recognize the team. Morgan, Kurt, Eddie. What an amazing event, right? You know, you take a risk, you think about, hey, let's do an imPACt Summit. And 6 months ago, you come up with that idea. You have no idea how it's going to come together. And they pulled off just an amazing event. Thomas and Feeney and Clay over here running the audiovisual work. It's really impressive that we can do this. And we can build fans and we can hold events. So, you know, what else is next, right? So I'm the CFO at here. And the idea today is to kind of bring up I have a couple premises. One is that we're asking our customers to spend a lot of money. And we're engineers talking to each other. But I believe somebody in the shadows is really involved in every one of your decisions. And that's the CFO. And so my idea here today is that why don't we speak the CFO's language and perhaps lubricate the transaction a little bit, make it a little bit easier, and possibly I'm going to raise some ideas that maybe the CFO will start bringing the business to the buyer or to the facility manager, and it might be the CFO's idea to get some stuff done. In fact, when the facility manager may not be that interested in doing some work. So bear with me. I'm open to questions. If I do a good job and I don't ramble too long, we'll have some time at the end as well. And then, of course, my worksheets that I've built for this, they're a work in progress. I'll share them with you. I'd love to innovate and iterate so that if you guys buy into this concept, maybe over time we'll have a cool tool and that our ecosystem can work and make us better. So quick background on me. First part of my career, I was an accountant. I didn't like it that much. I'm rather competitive. I kept score. And at one point, I decided I want to make score. So I went and got an MBA and started getting into the operations. Ultimately, I found myself in a landscape distribution company, a small company, 50 people, $2 million in revenue, but a great time. And the guy gave me the keys and said, just don't ask me for anything, but run with it. And so I was fortunate enough to build a team of people. We built a $100 million business in about 7 years, opened up 24 locations. It was good. We're selling plants, kind of like HVAC. It's cool. You know, and I'm a big guy. I'm kind of silly, but I like to do cool things with cool people. And during that period of time, I'd say, hey, I'd sell plants. People, hey, that's cool. And so it served a good purpose. Unfortunately, I got washed out in the 08 downturn, the construction downturn. We were in the South. It was pretty hard when your entire business is built on new construction, and new construction decides they've had enough. And so I went and started an insurance agency. So I've sold insurance. I know a little bit about risk. I know a little bit about insurance. I did only commercial insurance. I hate insurance as a buyer. I thought it would be a good business, and I thought I could help share my hate and help other people game the system and buy less of it and still get more out of it. I worked out okay, but I ended up, it wasn't for me. I bought a gym, so I've owned a gym for the last 8 years. I like biochemistry. I like solving problems. At the end of the day, I think that's what I'm best at. And so the opportunity came up here at Q-PAC to be a CFO again. I think it's a great role. I'm a scorekeeper again, and I get a chance to influence, you know, this company and do my best to do it. And I feel like I'm qualified to say this because during that time, from when I left accounting and I came back, all I did was sell. I mean, I've sold insurance. You want fun time selling? Hey, I do insurance. That is not cool. Nobody once ever said that to me when I went to introduce myself. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I did not like it. And as soon as I bought the gym, what do? I own a gym. That's cool. So I was back. But I feel like I'm cool here because you see that right there, I got my ASHRAE card. So I'm a member of ASHRAE, so that's my last reason why I'm qualified to do this. That's my chance at a joke, right? All right. So the CFO role, what are we dealing with the CFO guy? All right. So this is kind of where they are. They're analytic. They're strategic, right? They're going to be involved. You know, they should have some integrity. When I was an auditor. I was taught to be, basically a professional skeptic. You know, you're skeptical as a CFO. You're kind of like you're from Missouri. Show me. Talk's cheap. So that's part of what you're dealing with. You know, new product, new ideas, blah, blah, blah. Show me. Let me see the numbers, right? So we got to figure out that that's what they're looking for, all right? Some of them are kind of risk averse. Some of them are not. I'm not super risk averse. That's probably one of my downsides at this point is I am not as scared of new things. Some CFOs might be. They may be more scared of change. So you got to understand kind of where they are. Who is the change agent? We're selling a new product in some cases. We're trying to get people to buy into a new idea, leave an old technology. So we got to figure out who's the innovator in the audience. And you may find it that the CFO is the guy like me, you know, let's go. You know, they may be a little hesitant from an engineering standpoint because not all the T's and I's are crossed. But sometimes they might be crossed enough, and we can take that chance. But I find in preparing for this is the piece that's in yellow was the thing that kind of struck me. Because I knew CFOs can get in operations pants a little bit, and we can kind of disrupt things a little bit. But to say that 93% of the time the CFO's got the last say on a capital expense was really, I didn't expect that. My businesses I always ran were a little more distributed. The decision-making was a little more out in the field where the person closest to the action had the power and the authority to make a decision. But clearly that's not how most businesses are run. They're a little more centralized, especially with big spend items. It's going to come back to the HQ, and the CFO's got to sign off. So why not speak their language, send something ahead of time or at the moment that we're submitting for the capital request that speaks to that CFO's language and just makes, you know, that they get it. And they look at the opportunity and they go, these guys get it. They're speaking my language. So the other thing on the left-hand side here is the responsibilities, and it's the bottom one. So the title of my presentation was the ROI, and then it had a little piece about decarbonization. And when I was preparing for this, I think Morgan and I talked about it one time, and I had forgotten. So I'd been preparing for ROI. And I looked at the title, and it says decarbonization. So I did not want to let you down. But I really was kind of like, I'm not really a decarbonization guy. Again, I'm a skeptic. So I'm not sure, right? It's a little political. We can really go at it here if we want to about it all. But the reality of it is, a CFO today is responsible for it. It's on the CFO's desk. They're the scorekeeper. They're the compliance officer. They're the ones publishing the scorecard for sustainability. They're the ones presenting it to the investors who want to invest in an ESG compliant or an ESG mindful company. 494 of the top 500 companies today all have sustainability plans. So you can be a skeptic all you want, or you got to go with the flow. And right now, the ESG is on a CFO's desk. And I guarantee you not one CFO asked for this. Not one of them said, hey, I'll take ESG. I don't have enough to do around here, right? So not only are we going to talk ROI, but we're also going to talk ESG at the level I talk at. You guys can probably run circles around me, and I don't mean to insult you. If I say something stupid, please correct me, all right? But I'm trying to look at a way that if I was a CFO trying to manage this, how am I going to deal with it? What am I looking for? So this is a messy slide, but this is just a quick survey of the internet, of some of the stuff. 66% of middle market CFOs, we're not even big enough to be considered middle market. So you think that millions of businesses out there right now, the CFOs are saying they're either considering ESG primarily as a compliance exercise or they're just getting started. They need your help. So a CFO is coming up with some capital expense items. He's got some ESG issues. You're the experts. You're the ones that understand what power usage decline means to an ESG scoreboard. And if you don't, you might as well start thinking about it. What are the trade-offs, right? So, hey, all right. This is one of the money slides that I think is a big takeaway. And I've heard this before, but it was great to see it in this survey by BDO, which is a big CPA firm. ESG investments are immune to recessions. Pretty powerful. A lot of people are calling for a little bit of a recession next year. Money's going to get a little tighter for some people. People are going to pucker up. One area that they're not, according to this survey, is they're going to be still spending money if they can lower power usage. If they can still reach some kind of way to get the ESG scoreboard. I think there's a whole new currency being developed that we don't fully understand yet. There's the dollar bill, and then there's an ESG point. An ESG point may be worth more. maybe a factor of 10 in some cases, in some cities, blue states, red states, blue state, I mean, I don't know. This is the premise. This is where I want you guys to call me on BS. All right, but this is the premise that I came away with that I thought, wow, if this is true, and if I speak the right language and I say the right message to the CFO, I'm not subject to budgets. I'm not subject to, I ain't got no money, because they got money because they're basically saying it right here, 80% of the companies, all right? So, how many of y'all here are engineers? Went to engineering school? How many of y'all went to sales school? In a college? You got a degree in sales? I'm sorry, it's okay. Because the joke is, all of us end up in sales, but they never teach us. We're all self-taught. We got to go find a guru. We got to go find a book. We got to go find a seminar. It's a shame, right? It's probably the most valuable, most noble thing we can do. Help somebody get what they want, right? Zig Ziglar, right? I'm a big fan of Zig Ziglar, right? If you can help others get what they want, I can get everything I want, right? So we're doing a noble cause. We're helping people solve problems. Why don't they teach that in school? Anyhow, I'm going to do a little quick primer on sales because I think it's and we won't spend a lot of time on it, but I love selling. These are the steps of a sale that I was taught, all right? And when we're dealing with the CFO, we've got to figure out a couple of things. Who's the decision maker and what's the decision-making process? Right? I was speaking with John and Tom Weichert yesterday, and they were talking about this. I was bouncing this idea off them, and they were saying, we only ever talked to the procurement person. We've never even thought of the CFO. We've never even seen the CFO. Yet they're doing $1 million installs. I'm telling you, that CFO is he's in the conversation. She's in the conversation. There's no doubt. So let's talk about decision-making processes, and let's talk about how some people do it better than others. All right? Can you guys hit that for me?
Waitress, could I get that shrimp cocktail I saw in the glass case?
Yep. And you, what can I get? Jesus, what happened to your face?
I knew it. See, Richard. I'll have chicken wings.
Kitchen's closed until dinner. Just got cold stuff and desserts.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. You sure it's closed?
Let me check. Yep, it's closed.
Okay. I'll just have a sugar packet or two. Hey, what's your name?
Helen.
That's nice. You look like a Helen. Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman. Let's say I go into some guy's office. Let's say he's even remotely interested in buying something. Well, then I get all excited. I'm like, Jojo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet. The pet is my possible sale. Oh, my pretty little pet. I love you. So I stroke it, and I pet it, and I massage it. Yeah, I love it. I love my little naughty pet. You're naughty. And then I take my naughty pet, and I go... Oh! I killed it! I killed my sale! That's when I blow it. But that's when people like us have got to forge ahead, Helen. Am I right?
God, you're sick. Tell you what, I'll go turn the fryers back on and throw some wings in for you.
Hey, thanks, Helen. Tummy likey. Tummy want wingy.
Did that board of the head knock something loose?
What are you talking about?
That 180 you just pulled with the waitress. Why can't you sell like that?
So, I don't know if you've ever used Tommy Boy for your sales training, but there's multiple examples of Tommy Boy moments as he's trying to save his dad's business. There's another one I've always used with my sales teams, which was when don't take no for an answer. And he goes repeatedly, don't take no for an answer. Okie dokie, don't take no for, alrighty, don't take no, okay. And then finally the guy goes, maybe. And then what does he do, right? He goes crazy about the car and he lights the car on fire on the desk. And so those are, Chris Farley, yeah, he's a great guy. But so let's talk about the decision maker and the decision-making process. I believe there's two mindsets that you got to be mindful of. There's a PUC mindset, a per unit cost. This person's basically looking at Everybody's the same. Everybody's a commodity. Give me the lowest price. I'm not interested in change. I like where we are. I'm status quo. Give me the lowest price. Bid work. Oftentimes, everybody's the same. Slap your bid in there, okay? PUC also can be called a puke, because that's kind of how it makes you feel sometimes when you're stuck in that sense of the sales cycle. Total acquisition cost is a different level mindset, maybe a little more holistic. Can see the downstream costs. I buy this cheap, I screw up my next guy down the line. I don't want to do that, right? I want to do stuff that's holistic, up and down the stream. I may pay more, but I know I'm going to get more, all right? So I'm a little more strategic into my TAC, all right? But sometimes it's not just a person. Sometimes it's just when you are in the cycle. So this is a chart. It shows a vertical axis A. That's the trigger point when somebody says, I need something. If we think about Amanda's speech yesterday, that's the 3%. All right? I need something. The trigger starts. On the left-hand side of the dotted line is the time when we can do something. That's when we like to plan spec. We like to get our product spec'd in there. So we're on the left-hand side. We're in the total acquisition cost side. The diagonal line represents our ability to influence profit. The earlier we get in, maybe the better price. Maybe we get spec'd. Maybe we don't get driven into a bid situation. As time goes by, there's a design freeze. At that point, it's spec'd. And everything to the right of that, now you're kind of on the puke side of things. The what has been decided. On this side, it's just a matter of who. Does that make sense? Now, just because you make it to this right-hand side doesn't mean the puke is in charge. Because in organizations, there's like a little seesaw. You know, who's the heavyweight in the seesaw? Sometimes it might come back to the TAC person. But the one person I guarantee you who's involved on the left-hand side is the CFO. And my premise earlier is not only is the CFO sometimes after the trigger point, but I think the CFO is going to be the trigger point. I think the CFO in this ESG world is the one that's going, I need some points. Our competitor is looking better in the ESG space. And I need a few points. I need some lower power. Do I need it right now? Is my stuff broken? I don't know. But I got to get something. You guys are doing it. Are we done with LEDs? Is every LED been installed that can be installed? Is there still room there? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking you guys. You guys know it. My hunch is everybody's taking the low-hanging fruit. The LEDs are done. Now it's heavy lifting time, and HVAC is the heaviest with the biggest bang for the buck. Right? We're 50% of the building energy, and just our fan is 50% of the HVAC energy. So you want a heavy hit on an ESG score, I think we're the answer. We could be. Anybody thoughts on that? Anybody disagree? I'm wide open here. I'd love to, or if you want to save it to the end, then we can think about this. But to me, I'm just thinking like, if I could go to a CFO, and I got some real money slides at the end that'll really bring it together, and share with them that I can get you some points. I can save you money. I can save you power. I can save you fixed cost. I can double dip. Power goes down, you get ESG points, and you get some fixed cost reduction. So think about this. This is the other thing. What people believe matters. It's their truth. How long have VFDs been around in AC fans? 100 years? I think the first drive, I think, was 100 years ago. I looked up, maybe not the drive that you guys see today, but the first drive came out to adjust a fan speed was over 100 years ago. All right? The VFD that you guys see today and the AC motor that you see today has been pretty much dominating the industry since 1980. I mean, there's a couple old guys like me here, but that's 2 generations of mechanicals, 2 generations of contractors. That's all they know. Why are they changing? It's not like the companies that sell that stuff are crappy companies or well-run companies, high technology. So this mindset is powerful that we've got to figure out that, hey, we got a better solution, and you got to leave your comfort zone. Not everybody wants to do that, right? So again, if the frontline guy won't do it, but the CFO says, I got ESG points, I got power savings. We can do it, right? I was looking at our sign over there, and I think power savings is interesting because I think it's kind of like, I'd say a joke in my gym business that if you start a sentence with a recent study shows, you can say anything after it. Like you can hey, it's a sample size of 2, and my recent study shows, right? I mean, that AC fans suck, or ECM fans are 50% more efficient. And it's true, but you read social media, it's like that, right? So we can prove, we have factual data that says ECM fans save energy, apples to apples. So we got to do it. Jeffrey Moore wrote a great book called Crossing the Chasm. At Q-PAC, 2012, we didn't exist. 2012, an ECM fan array didn't exist. Maybe there was a few out there, but nobody was really doing it well like we are. So we've come along. We are trying to cross the chasm to be into the early majority. You know, you got to, sometimes you think about like how quickly this company has grown, and I think sometimes the exclusivity nature of this industry may be a part of it. I don't know. Did any of you guys have fan wall envy? Like you weren't in the Nortec family, and you were tired of a fan wall kicking your ass? I mean, it makes sense to me. It was a new shiny toy, new to the industry. They rolled out in 2000, so the fan wall has only been out since 2000. So we show up. Now you got something to compete against, right? We went right into the Dyken channel, and then some of you maybe not be Dyken people, but now you got something to, you know, kind of the Nortec people to stuff it, right? So now we got something. Now, all you early innovators, engineers, maybe first to jump, CFOs, I wouldn't say necessarily on the left-hand side of this ordinarily. I think it takes an engineer, it takes somebody who likes technology to go. But as we're moving across, I'm hoping that my premise is right, that the CFO, the engineers that are still sitting back, the engineers that are still hanging on to AC and VFD, the CFO is the one that's going to help push them across through the ESG influence. And then the other thing that we have a challenge with, right, is retrofit versus OEM. A retrofit product may be moving a little faster than getting into the OEMs. Why do semi-custom? Every HVAC manufacturer has EC fans in their package units. Every one of them. They all offer EC. Why don't all the OEMs who do custom and semi-custom offer ECM? I don't know. What's the holdup there with the semi-custom custom world? I mean, that's where we want. That's where we're going with our arrays. They're still sticking a 75 horsepower big old engine in there, a big motor in there. Proven technology, right? Absolutely. Why would they change until we figure out how to make it better, right? Either we got to save energy, we got to save labor, we got to do something to help them out. Or, as I'll talk a little bit, there may be other reasons, right? So the decision-making process is crucial. On the left-hand side, we figured out who's got the power. We got to know who got the power. Does the CFO got the power? Does the operations people got the power? Does the facility manager have the power? We got to understand that on that puke versus TAC thing. I think knowing the season's really important when you're thinking about CFOs. You got to hit them in season. Because CFOs don't think about CapEx every day. There's about 2 or 3 month period where we're thinking. We're trading off. Everybody here right now is bringing me ideas. Love spending money, right? Everybody's got an idea. So we got to sort it all out. Which ones bring the best bang for the buck? So if you're a 1231 hospital, your year end is December 31st. Right now is money season if you're trying to get the CFO's ear. Some universities or some hospitals are associated with universities. Universities' year ends are June 30th. Money season's in the spring. Hospitals who are associated with the federal government, it's a 9/30 year end if they're doing the military hospitals. So their money season, you got to know what time of year. If you talk to me in January about CapEx, I'm already locked up. I might, I've done this a few times, so I always keep a little kitty for the stuff that pops up after the fact that we didn't think about. But $1 million retro or something like that, no. All right? Capital expense policies. You got to know this. This is when the CFO's a jerk. This is when the CFO is stiff-arming you. Capital expense policy is everything over 100 grand goes on the CFO's desk. Then you got to figure out how to make your quote never go over 100 grand, right? You all know that trick, right? Our CapEx policy here is 5 grand. We're too small of a company. That's where we are. But a $1 billion company, they're going to have a higher threshold before it becomes material. So you just got to know if the CFO is a problem, how to get around them and be able to do it without getting your guy fired, right? So that's just a little thought there for you on that. The ESG policy, the tax strategy, we're going to talk about those a little bit. The payback policy. Again, I love the Weikerts, the two brothers that were in the video. I've gotten to know them, spent a little time up in New York City with them. We were talking. They think it's a 3-year payback on everything they do. That's what the procurement manager says. If they don't give me back my money in 3 years, then it's no good. You guys seeing that too? Is that what you guys are being told? ESG, 17 years, 15 to 17 years. It's different. If you're selling in power savings and you don't bring the ESG side into it, you're stuck at 3-year payback. But if you make it an ESG play, right now that's what they're saying. They're tolerating up to 17-year paybacks. That changes a lot of things. It's a whole new mindset. And don't forget, the CFO is going to be there 93% of the time. Does that left-hand side of the slide, does that get you excited, engineers, here? Right? Engineers talking to engineers, fan curves, where does it land? What do we got? Is this the perfect fan? You guys used our QUIP system yet? Everybody here on the QUIP system? How many options do you get? Holy cow. How many hairs are we going to split? All right? Now, I get it. Engineers love talking. Hey, let's get it just right. All right? The guy buying all this stuff, all he wants is a comfortable office. He just wants happy people. The fan curve never, ever, ever comes into the mind of the guy that owns the building. Unless he maybe grew up as an engineer and he's like, hey, tell me about that fan curve. But I doubt it. This is what they're buying. During the times of scarcity, right? What we experienced here was, which used to be you had to hit the fan curve, suddenly became you had to hit the fan curve. Are all those buildings screwed that we just installed in the last 2 years? None of them are working? Is that true? I don't know. But suddenly this trying to thread a needle the needle hole became like this because of necessity, because of scarcity of fans. What does that mean to you guys? I mean, we're thinking about it a lot here because we used to stock 30 different fan models. We're down to about 8 that seem to cover most of it. It's very expensive. It's not efficient to stock all these things. But just a thought to consider. This is what the CFO is thinking about. So if we're trying to get to the CFO, we got to get ROI. We got to learn how to do it. I'm going to get to it in a second. Here's another real quick chart about how the CFO is going to look at things. Risk assessment, you guys are all about N+1. Redundancy, the array solves that problem. You don't have to worry about I have a top 10 list of failures, HVAC failures that have happened in the last 10 years. You can keep the guy from being on that list. I'll call it the Hall of Shame of HVAC. Operational efficiency, CFOs love lowering fixed costs. Power is one of those things, right? Every day you open up your building, you write a check for power. If one person comes to work, 100 people come to work, I tell it here all the time, our fixed costs, I want to lower fixed costs because every month we come to work, I'm writing a couple 7-figure check, right? So if we can lower the operational efficiency, that always wins. And then if we can get the sustainability piece of it, we got it. All right, we're getting to the ROA piece. I know you guys, thank you for being patient. This is the value worksheet. I think the real takeaway here is it's real and perceived. Benefits versus real and perceived costs. You match up yourself against somebody else, okay? Some people believe different things. They have different values of what's important and what's not. This is where fear also comes into play. That old technology's worked great for me. I got a fear of change. I got a fear of missing out. This ECM is blowing up. I'm over here on some dinosaur technology. What's my career going to do? What does this say about me? Right? Are these other fan suppliers as cool as us? I don't know. I'm sure they can have a good time too, right? You raise the benefits, the value goes up. You raise the costs, you just got to raise the benefits more. The value still goes up. This isn't about having to be low cost. This is having to be high value. So you can play this a bit. And I think high value translates into return on investment. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was in the landscape business, we had a little small business and we were growing it. We built a pilot in Orlando. That was our first place to go. Orlando is like the crossroads of Florida. We were a middleman in a business that never had a middleman in Florida because everybody said nobody would pay your markup. It was all farms direct to landscape contract. You think you're a landscape contractor, you're trying to do all the stuff with your labor in the field, and you have to be a logistics expert to line up 5 different farms, shipping stuff to you, to land at your job site so your guys are working. We said, that's stupid. Everywhere in the north, there's a middleman. Why can't we be a middleman in the south? That was our premise. We opened up in Orlando. It's going pretty good. I get one of our top customers in. I say, hey, Jim, we go to dinner. How's it going? You're one of our top customers. You really bought into this concept. Tell me, are you making more money? Because that was the goal, right? I'm a CFO. The ROI was, are you making more money, buying more, paying more for your plants? He says, no. So my body language, I don't know what my body language was like, but I'm sure I was just like, oh shit, because I'm in on this deal. But I'm a good salesperson. What's a good salesperson do after they ask a question? But what about before that? What do? You shut up and listen, right? So I shut up and listened, just praying to God that something better was going to come. And then he says, yeah, but you know what? I've been home in time for dinner every night since I started using you guys. And then it was like, whoa, it ain't about money here. There's other things going on. So in his case, it was about time. It was about being home in time because he was tired about messing around with logistics, staying late, worrying about getting tomorrow's plants in. So that was when I had this like hit right here. So this is kind of the same thing with this ESG. My premise, again, is like it's not necessarily about the money if we can get ESG points for these people. That's what we got to figure out. You guys can't read this. This is the beginning of the ROI checklist. So if you guys came for ROI, sorry, this is where we're going to get started. So this is the ROI checklist. I got a handful of items here. I'd love for you guys to help me with this because I think there's something here. And I'd love for you to help me get me a worksheet that you guys can use. So when you're selling against somebody and you don't want to be the low price guy because you got a better product and you know it, we're going to prove it for people who are into the finance side. Like when I did this a handful of times in my early career, it didn't go over real well because the person was insulted because he felt like I was insulting their intelligence because when I was done, they were kind of stupid for not buying from us. You follow what I'm saying? Like it was so compelling how much money I could make them if they chose to change, to get rid of the old idea, that they felt like, I had to soften my approach because, again, I'm kind of direct. I get right to it. I don't have time for, all the rapport building and all the Tommy boy stuff. It was just like, let's go, check this out. And they were just like, you're a jerk. Get out of here. So I had to soften this up a little bit. So here are the key items I see. 390.1, 2007. Has everybody tried yet? Has anybody successfully done a Section 179D? One. Chris, how'd it go? Okay. It's an amazing thing, right? I'm a skeptic. It's the government. It's a government idea. So I'm always like, every time I've done business with the government, it hasn't gone well. They always get a string in me somehow, a hook in me. I'm not sure. I can't see where this one's bad. I did some research on this. I called some experts. It appears to be legitimate. Section 179D is an accelerated depreciation, which means if there's depreciation still left on a building, and they can pass 90.1 and save energy, they can get up to $5 a foot to recover their investment and take it as a tax deduction. That's for a building owner. That's real money. It's real money. It's not a tax credit, but it'll lower their tax bill. If you're dealing with a government company or a government building, they don't pay taxes. The design people get to take the deduction. And allegedly, Johnson Controls has a nice little system going right now where Johnson Controls knows this. They design it and they install it. And the money that comes to them on the 179 deduction, they just pass it right back to the customer as a savings. So they're basically able to lower their price. Everybody wins. The government doesn't, but that's okay. So I got a couple of experts I've identified, people who do this for a living, a couple of CPA firms around the country. This is all they do. I think it's legit. It's worth talking about. It's another way to add value. Number two, again, I'm just a guy that observes things. I remember when I first got here and Matt was teaching me the business, and I was like, how do you size one of these systems? And he was like, well, it's this building, and they look at how much sunlight it's getting and what time of year it is and how many people are going to be in the building and da-da-da-da-da-da, and then they size it. And I was like, wow, and then they size it, maybe put a little safety factor on it, just so that it sounds like a pretty wild-ass guess sometimes on how to size this stuff. And of course, now that I'm an ASHRAE member, I went into the ASHRAE books and I saw all the calculus and everything that goes into it. Pretty impressive. I'm sure you guys use that all the time and go have these giant worksheets that you go through, or you have some heuristics. But the point is that ASHRAE says you can do a 20% safety factor. And maybe that's the first engineer, and then the second engineer, of course, knows the first one put safety on it. That's not necessary to put another safety factor on it. And the third one that gets it, I'm sure, says, no. The first guy took care of it. So it's possible, though, it could get 1.2 times 1.2 times 1.2, and then get installed. And then we have to replace it with our retrofit. And they're asking us to do the same schedule and replace it. Or, since that one fan that had to be oversized, maybe only 20%, now we're replacing it with an array that you can iterate. Now you can go schedule for schedule, we got it, right? Or maybe one fan comes off, or maybe we match it to satisfy the engineer, but we tell the customer, you'll get a spare out of this and we're going to lower your energy. Because every energy dollar we save is an ESG point, and it's operating efficiency. It's a win-win. Does that make sense? I don't want to insult any of you engineers that are like, Kevin, you're an idiot. You're insulting me by saying we're oversizing stuff just to sell more stuff. I didn't say that. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think there's anything malice involved in this. I think you guys are doing your best to make sure you get the best product that never fails, because I'm telling you, the Hall of Shame list, you do not want to be on that list because of an HVAC failure. High-profile stuff would be brutal. So I get that. And I get that when it comes time to change and you had old technology, now you can tune it up with something that can iterate. You're getting 30 fans to replace 200 CFM, 200,000 CFM. That was the original schedule. Why don't we do a little balance test on the front end and just make sure it really is that static. Let's make sure it really is that CFM necessary to do the job. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we used more oxygen 10, 20 years ago when we were people in the office. I don't know. Just a thought. So we can offer that iteration on the safety factor. I typed the same one twice. I must have had a different one in there that I wanted to do, but I missed it. And then the last one, of course, is just the electricity consumption. We got to get that right. I'm going to pass through that. Okay. So this is I'm a good CFO. I'm a good accountant. Everything comes back to a spreadsheet, right? So we're gonna have a spreadsheet, ultimately an Excel worksheet that we're gonna do this on. This is it. I'm gonna break it down so you guys can see it a little bit. So we start at the top, us versus them. In this case, we're $100,000, they're 85. In fact, we're working on one of these right now, something similar to this. So we're 15,000 in the black, and the puke says you don't get the job. You're 15,000 too high. And you, being a good salesperson now, you understand the value worksheet. You say, wait a minute. Are we dealing with total cost, lifetime cost? Or are we just dealing with one-time cost? Well, you got my ear. Talk to me more. So let's talk about, we'll set up some variables in here so we can sit down with them. This is a great way to sit down. Tell me how much it costs for your labor to be in the field. Tell me how many hours you think you got in the budget. Let's go. And let's talk about the Q-PAC versus what your alternative is. These are just silly me hours. But I just made a case here where it's like, we're not that much better on the field labor, which is stupid because we crushed the field labor. But I just wanted to make a point here. So we're still down. All right? So let's go next. Let's talk about recurring costs. So that's still the one-time cost. The landed cost, we're still $14,000 high. This guy's kind of a puke. I hear you guys are cool guys. You got great video, blah, blah, blah. But I just buy by the dollar. All right, well, let's talk more. The recurring costs. Because somebody's going to care about these recurring costs. And this is the simple part, right? I think even our team, we do to this point. All right, well, you're going to have belts, you're going to have bearings, you're going to have to balance it, your springs, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have this amount of money every year on service and the materials to do it. And I'm saying on our side, we're going to save you $25,000 in electricity. So the first year, we flipped it. And then on a 5-year basis, this is the savings. Everybody with me so far? Does anybody use this? Does everybody have their own version of this to this point? It's pretty simple, right? I mean, even like, it's not rocket science to this point. But then this is where it gets interesting. Because now we start talking about the contingent items, the fearful items, the stuff that makes people scared, or the ESG items that people haven't thought about. And maybe like, bigger jobs, there's some rigging issues, where stuff's got to, like 2 guys can carry our stuff up the steps. Some of our competitors need a crane to get a 2,000-pound motor into a place. I mean, I don't know how they do it. I mean, they've been doing it for a long time. People figured it out. It's just amazing how you get that stuff up a set of stairs. There's some cool tools that do it now. And then down here at the bottom, so there's some contingency costs, but then there's some contingency gains that I don't have the answer for yet. That's where I want your all's help. But I do know that 179D accelerated depreciation is for real. There's also an issue of doing nothing. Right now, in New York City, you can't afford to do nothing. Local Law 97 is coming. Anybody know what Local Law 97 is? You guys been following it? Local Law 97, every building in New York City is being metered. If your power's not going down, you're paying fines. So sitting still is not a play. Not only that, Boston, Chicago, Seattle, Portland, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Minneapolis, they're all metering buildings now too. They don't know yet what the consequences are of the punishment, but they got you. They're just getting poised. They're probably just waiting to see what happens in New York City. So New York City starts next year. 2024 is when it comes down. If you got a bigger than a 25,000 square foot building, someone's watching your power. And if your power's not going down, you're going to have to pay. So you can't do nothing in certain markets. You might as well get ahead of it. So you just avoid the ESG fees. Sustainability goals, I'm just saying, if you're a Fortune 500 company, ESG is important. The millennial, there's some millennials here. Nobody wants to go work for a company burning diesel fuel. They want to go work for companies that are electrifying. It's just part of it. It's everything. It's not just your vendors, your customers, your people. It's do the right thing. Use less power. When you're thinking about, I don't understand this, but as part of my research and doing some, just tell people that their strategies run to failure. You guys know this. I don't know how you sleep at night. With the strategy, you got a poor facility manager, and she knows it's any day now. And we're just going to wait till it breaks. Fortunately for us, we can do like Andrew Key said, 48 hours later, we can solve a problem. But if you can't, and if it's an operating room, or you're at an event like an NFL football game, or an NBA basketball game in Toronto, and suddenly it's 95 degrees and there's humidity all over the floor, and it's $100 million athletes are trying to play. It's not cool. So I don't know the root cause to some of these items that happen, but it's a problem. And then there's the temporary uptime cost. We've dealt with a handful of hospitals. Hospitals are a really sweet spot for us when a hospital fails, and we can get that quick turnaround. Temporary air. Anybody here sell temporary air? A little bit. What's it go for? About $5,000 a day for just basically? Yeah. So I mean, one moment with that pays for a lot of Q-PAC and a lot of y'all's time. So we have that issue. Install downtimes. We're really good at helping you guys. Like Matt said, the early part of our career, we figured out that laser cutting something out is not the easiest job in the world. We wanted to make that next 4 hours butter. compared to that. So, we want to make sure that those things come back up on time. It's a funny joke though, real quick. One time up in New York City, I was up there and everybody in the company's phone blew up on a Sunday morning. I was going out to watch an F1 race up there at a little restaurant. And my phone even caught it. I'm like, why am I getting a call from our rep in New York City? And apparently we had a building that was going to come online for Monday. It's like 6 floors, and I don't know how many thousands of people were supposed to show up for work on Monday, and our system wasn't turning on. And James, our service guy, of course, got the call, and he figured it out real quick because he has a great checklist. But somehow somebody put a black on red on one of our connectors, which is hard to do, right? And so, but again, we solved the problem because we could get the thing up on time, and with a quick phone call it was solved. So this is the essence of the value worksheet, the ROI worksheet. At the bottom of this thing, when we add it all up, us versus them, us versus them, us for them, boom, we have a total dollar number that says you can spend more with us, you make more by buying us. And that's what we want to try to offer with the ROI worksheet. And if we do that, I guarantee we're speaking the voice of the CFO. If that was in your submittal, or if you can get around into it earlier, get around that purchasing agent, get around the procurement guy, get around the facility manager if you can. Hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy. Kevin mentioned earlier, sometimes you may irritate somebody when you go around them. May not be a great strategy. But if he believes he needs your help, or better yet, if maybe like Amanda taught yesterday, rather than going to the 3% who have a need, if we can start communicating with the CFOs to let them know that we can solve their problem, because here's the money slide. When your compensation is tied to doing something, suddenly things happen. If the guy's getting paid a bonus, I've never heard of somebody getting paid a bonus for spending CapEx. Never heard of that. But if I can get a guy to get a bonus by solving his ESG, a CFO, 10% of CFOs are in the game, but his CFO's boss, that's wild. Again, it's a whole new currency. So that's all I got. If you had any questions, anything you guys, real quick, here's the top 10 HVAC failures. It's intense. And again, what's the chance of this happening? You think of how many hours. I mean, you're dealing with, you could win the lottery probably quicker than the next one of these will happen. But the fear of it happening doesn't really care about reality. So, all right. Anything I can answer for you? Any questions? I'd love to share. Here's my LinkedIn. Here's my email. If any of you guys, I will invest as much time as you guys need to build a ROI worksheet that you guys can use. Again, I'd love to make this one of the takeaways for you guys, and I'd love to make, you guys are armed and ready. And next time you're up against an AC option or somebody who's stuck in the mud and doesn't want to get going, then, let's see if we can't get them off, get that purchase order. All right. All right, Kurt, over to you. Thanks, guys.